Hello and welcome, fellow composers and producers. This is Patrick Scelina, and today I'd like to show you the newest sample library from String Audio called Darkless. It is a sample library designed for Omnisphere, and it is a second sample library designed by String Audio for Omnisphere, and this time it's not all about very dark and gravy sounds. This time they went a little bit more lighter. That's why it's called Darkless. And in this case, I had fun really while playing around with those sounds because they are so beautiful. This is one of the most beautiful sample libraries which I ever heard, and it was really fun for me to just go through all of those sounds and just try to just reach all of those beautiful textures. So the first thing I'm gonna do, as I always do, I will play my demo and then I will show you a little bit of the library, just so you can see how many of those patches is out there, and then I will try to break down the track, the demo which I wrote, and I will show you how I use those sounds and also how I change them a little bit, because to be honest, in this case, most of those presets which I used in this specific track, I changed a little bit, and even sometimes I didn't even use a preset, but I used a sample and I made my own preset based on that. So let's just play it. Okay, so this is it. Let me begin by showing you the content. So this entire library is, as the previous version, the Lightless, is divided into two sections. We have multis, and we have some single presets, single instance presets. So here we have multis. As you can see, we have different categories like keys, paths, pulses, textures, and atmospheres, and basically the same category path is visible in the single presets also catalog. So this is the, as you can hear, it's so organic. However, you may notice that in this case we have some names. In the previous version, Lightless, there we only had some numbers. They probably updated that by now, I think, but in this case we have some names, and we also have some additional information, like here, like white, gray, and there is also black. So these three brightness levels are about to tell us what kind of the sound we can expect from it. So basically white is very, very beautiful and high and very glassy, and gray is somewhere in the middle, and obviously the black is the darkest version of the sound. However, it's not as dark as you might expect, so it's just for us, so we can just see what kind of sound we can expect from this. Let me just show you some of the others. Maybe I will just boost the volume a little bit. This is great. It's like organ. So what else we got? City lights. Yeah, so as you can hear, they're all pretty similar in sense of the emotion and of the type of the sound. However, you have so many variations of those sounds here that it's probably the ultimate collection of paths and textures you may need in your production. Okay, so let me just jump to a single sounds presets, because there are the ones that I know a little bit better because I use them here in the track. The thing which I like the most are paths and keys. So this is actually the thing which caused this entire track, because once I was playing around with those sounds and I started with this preset, I really liked this pulsing effect basically in the sample, because it's not caused by the preset, by the synthesizer. It's not any kind of LFO, it's just a sample as it is. So if you play it low, you will get this very, very slow movement. However, when you play up here, you can hear the pulse. So that is why I used this. And basically what I did, I just played it like that. And you can immediately hear the pulse, the rhythm, which I used in this demo. I'm holding G minor right now, and basically the D here and B flat. The combination of those two notes and those two samples, it's creating this rhythm. So what I actually did, I just measured the tempo of this, and I built entire track around it. Okay, never mind. And I even created my own version of it, which is just a little bit simpler. And here you can even more, you can hear it more. Okay, so let me just move on. Yeah, so even by looking on the name, you can expect something a little bit heavier and darker. Cold Whisper. Yeah, so you just can't go wrong with that. It's every single preset is really cool. I wouldn't probably use that library like I did in the demo, which is completely naked, but just to add some colors using the library to some, you know, some bigger arrangement, something which is a little bit more complex, it's just perfect. I will definitely use this thing over and over again. Maybe not just the presets, but I listened also to those samples, and those samples are great, and you can just use them and create your own presets, and you know, the sky is the limit basically, because of those samples are so great. You can use that using granular synthesis, or you can just play them around and combine two samples, you know, and just filter them, add some delay and something which will make them a little bit more original, and you will get something really great again. I wish I would have this kind of library when I was making my interdimensional album a couple of years ago, which is all about sounds of space and stuff like that. Okay, so let me maybe switch the category so you can hear a little bit of different stuff like bass. Yeah, so these are also very pad-like basses. Okay, so maybe let's check out the impacts. Yeah, so those impacts also has almost all of them. They have some sort of a tail effect, some sort of a soundscape in a tail, and in a track, in my demo, I needed to have like short hits, because the structure of the track is a little bit like in a trailer, maybe not specifically, but you know, something similar, and I needed very short impacts and hits So I just use those sounds, and I just use basically the envelope, and I shorten the decay of the sound, so I get only the hit from the beginning. This is great. Love it. The thing which for me is missing in this library is something a little bit more like a regular piano. Well, maybe not a regular piano, but something like a frozen piano, which you can hear. Most of those presets here sounds like a little bit like a frozen piano. However, they are very, very high. So the only thing which I miss in this entire catalog is something which you can play like just like a piano, but it sounds more spacey and more, you know, just crystal-like. Yeah, so this would be cool. However, you can't really go so low, because even if you use the tuning, even if you just pitch it down 2 octaves, it's not the same sound as the piano. However, if you want to use something really high like this is awesome. And this little pulse at the end, I actually used one of those, and I added a tremolo effect to it, so it's even more pulsing. Okay, so we already been in paths, so I will just skip that and go to pulses. And basically here you can expect some percussive-like presets and also some arpeggios, some tonal arpeggios made with very shortened versions of samples. Like this one. In a demo I used one of them, I think, or maybe 2. Yeah, so it's really great, especially if you want to add some high-end, some high percussion like rhythm. And it's mainly created by arpeggios, so you can go inside and change your rhythm and, you know, make it by your own. This is the thing which I enjoy the most of these kind of libraries, because when you get a Kontakt sample library, you are very often so limited to those controls you have in Kontakt or in the GUI you get from the developer. In this, anything you can do, if you know the synthesizer very well, you can basically turn this thing into whatever you really want. So this is the thing which I love the most about presets for synthesizers, especially for Omnisphere. This is my favorite synthesizer, especially because it allows me to combine samples with the regular synthesizer sound. Okay, so going to the last one, textures. Yeah, so in here you can expect some drones like and very high organic sounds. However, I don't use them a lot, especially in the track. I think I didn't even use a single texture preset. Okay, so let me skip everything else and just go back to the demo. So the first thing, here is the preset which I told you about I started with. So it's this one. So it has this kind of organ flavor, but especially when you play multiple notes on it. But I eventually decided to keep my main melody at the beginning and here in the middle, and then at the end I just use it for the pulse. So here you'll get only a pulse from it. Yeah, it's called Across the Stars. And actually in this case, it's not Across the Stars. This is a custom preset which I just duplicated. I just duplicated the track, that is why it's called the same. The name is the same, but I actually switched all of the samples because I didn't like using the same one, so I just wanted to have something more like air sound. Yeah, so I used the same preset, but I switched the samples. So now you can hear this noisy, like wind-like sound, which I really like. And okay, so the next thing here is something low. I needed some low end, so yeah, so this is just probably the original preset sphere. However, I maybe changed the envelope a little bit because I did that many times, and I also in many cases in this track I was disabling some of the effects. Like in this case, I disable all the reverb because I like to use, especially reverb. I like to use a reverb in my DAW, so I just like to use the same kind of reverb for multiple instruments, even if it's a synthesizer, even if it's a pad. I like to have this control on my send bus, especially because I can easily control the length of the tail, and especially in here it was crucial because I wanted to have this control, especially in those gaps, in those breaks in between those sections of the track, so I have the same length of the tail on different instruments, so I don't have to go to every single patch, you know, and try to change the timing and stuff like that. So I just disable most of the reverbs, not all of them, especially if the reverb is changing mostly the sound, not adding the tail. But if it's just a tail, I probably disable it. Okay, so let me go here to the signal. The signal is some, yeah, I needed the like mid-range pad, mid-range chords, just the track to be, you know, equally presented in frequencies. And I also added probably to this preset, because it's called signal. However, I probably added my own distortion, or maybe I changed it a little bit because I remember the original sound wasn't like that, so I wanted to have more dirt in it. Let's go here to the keys. Yeah, so this is just a preset of something like piano. play it very low. However, here I play it also high, just to get this pulse. Okay, so here we have also something, a little bit like glockenspiel, midnight voices. I probably use the preset. I don't think I changed anything here. Maybe a little. Yeah, and also with this thing, I don't remember me changing something really heavy here. However, I probably changed this patch a little bit, because I wanted to have something driving this part of the track, and I wanted to sound a little bit more like a violin solo or something like it. So I just use it in a legato mode, so you can play only one note at a time, and you will hear a very quick transition between notes. So without it, they would stuck. So it's, you know, it's not the same thing. It's less present. So now you can hear it's a solo. Yeah. So this is the thing which I remember I changed. And here we have piano with tremolo. I don't remember the original. Yeah, it's just Aurora, the same. Probably the same preset here. Maybe I switched the sample, but I don't remember. The thing which I did for sure is adding tremolo to it. And I also automated the tremolo. Okay. And this is my main bass. I wanted to have a bass which is also like a pad. However, I eventually decided to add something a little bit pulsing to it. So instead of changing the preset in Omnisphere, I just decided to use just a plugin. It's a volume shaper, you know, so it's just changing the volume every half of the note. Yeah, so just to make it a little bit more into the main groove. Okay, so now I can switch to those pulses. So the first pulse which I used here is this thing, Little Stranger. And it's probably the original preset, maybe with some little change, don't really remember. The same with this thing. However, what I did here, I created an envelope which, let's say, duplicates the pulse from this patch. I mean this one. You know, so it's pam pam, pam param, pam param, pam param. So I just created an envelope and I added this probably to volume. Can't really remember, let me see. Yeah, just to amplitude, so it's just, where is this? Oh, here it is. Yeah, so it's just pulsing, like the original pad. Okay, and what else? And here we have some pulses. Yeah, and this is probably original preset. What about this one? Yeah, so in this case I also use the same envelope probably, because it's pulsing. Yeah, so it's the same envelope, so I just use the same one and add it to amplitude. So everything here is slowly going to an end, and here we have some drums and percussion. So this is a this is like glockenspiel, so it's like a tonal percussion. Yeah, so it's just adding the high frequencies to those hits. So you can't really hear it so obviously, but it's there, especially on those main hits. And what else we have? Maybe let's go in order. So here we have a perc arpeggio. And in this case, I actually didn't use any kind of preset from the library. However, I used the sound, and I just used the sample, and I just created an arpeggio with it. So that's it. So I built very quickly my own preset. And this is the second variation. It's probably just duplicated the same thing, but with just with the different samples. And I also added some delay to it. Yeah, so it's just like that. And here we have a pulse, which is probably the original preset. Yeah. So it's just adding this finalized version of the groove. And here we have some drum hits. So as I said, I used those samples, but I just shortened them so they don't have the original sample tail. And here, I didn't use this one eventually. Yeah, and here we have some little exception from this, and I have to apologize because I said this is a naked demo, and it's almost a naked demo because I needed some sort of a drum hit. And I was looking for drum samples in the library, in the string audio library, and I used a string audio sample. But after I finished this, I realized it's not from Darkless, it's from Lightless. So it's from the first sample library. So this is the, this is the drum hit. And then I wanted to, when I just realized it's from Lightless, not Darkless, I wanted to replace it with something different. But in the Darkless, you don't really have those kind of drum-like sounds. You have some impacts, but it doesn't sound like a drum. So I just decided to leave it, and just forgive me for saying it's a complete naked. It's this is the only sound, or maybe two sounds, because we have here two different samples from the library Lightless, which I used in this track. And what I did, I duplicated the same preset which I created, and I made an arpeggio, and I just wanted to have something like a drum roll at the end, so I just made something like this. So you can't really hear it. You can't really hear it when you listen to the track, but I wanted to just build the low end at the end, like you would have the drum roll on timpani or on a bass drum. So that's it. And the last thing is the riser, which I created by myself using the samples from the Darkless library. And I used an envelope just to control the cutoff and the tremolo, and probably tuning a little bit, so it's rising. Yeah, so it looks like that. We have a sample, and we have some modulations with envelopes. Basically, it's one envelope which is linked to everything. This one, it's just rising slowly. And I used some tremolo, and I just control the speed of the tremolo with the same envelope. Okay, so I think that's it. If you have any questions, just please leave a comment. And if you like what I'm doing, hit like and subscribe. Thank you very much, and see you guys soon.